The moment I walked into that bright afternoon gathering, I knew something was wrong. Every smile felt forced. Every glance lingered a little too long. The sunlight poured through the large glass windows of the restaurant, illuminating the faces around me, and yet there was a strange tension hanging in the air. My ex-wife, Serena, sat at the center table with a grin that looked more like a challenge than a welcome. I had spent 2 years rebuilding my life after a painful divorce, learning how to carry my disappointments without letting them define me. But nothing could have prepared me for what was waiting that day. Serena had invited me to a charity luncheon, claiming she wanted us to be on better terms. Instead, she had arranged something she thought would embarrass me in front of everyone. She had set me up on a blind date with a deaf woman, expecting the entire room to laugh when I failed. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and judging people by their hearts rather than appearances, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs inspiration, and subscribe to Heartline Stories for more emotional journeys like this one. At 38 years old, I had become accustomed to disappointment. My name was Adrian Hale, and after my divorce, I kept mostly to myself. I worked as an architect, spent my evenings reading, and avoided social events whenever possible. Serena, on the other hand, thrived on attention. During our marriage, she loved being the center of every room. Even after we separated, she seemed unable to let go of the idea that she could still control how others saw me. Looking back, I should have recognized the signs when she insisted I attend the luncheon. The restaurant overlooked a peaceful city park. Children played under the warm daylight while families enjoyed picnics on the grass. Inside, guests chatted over lunch, unaware that I was about to become the target of someone else's cruel joke. Serena stood and introduced me to a woman sitting quietly near the window. Her name was Naomi Carter. She appeared to be around 34 years old. She wore a simple blue dress and had calm eyes that reflected a kind of confidence I rarely saw. Unlike everyone else in the room, she wasn't watching me with amusement. She was simply observing the world around her. Only then did Serena announce to the table that Naomi was deaf. A few people exchanged awkward glances. Others tried to hide their smiles. The atmosphere immediately shifted. It became painfully clear that Serena expected me to panic, become uncomfortable, and make a fool of myself. The entire setup was designed for entertainment. For a brief moment, I felt anger rising inside me. Not because Naomi was deaf, but because someone had used another human being as a prop for a joke. I looked around the room and saw people waiting for my reaction. Some looked curious. Others seemed almost excited. They expected failure. They expected embarrassment. What none of them knew was that my younger sister had been deaf since birth. Years earlier, I had spent countless afternoons learning sign language so she would never feel isolated in her own family. I remembered helping her with homework, translating conversations, and watching her overcome obstacles that most people couldn't even imagine. Through her, I learned that communication was far more than spoken words. I learned patience, empathy, and the value of truly paying attention. As those memories returned, my frustration disappeared. Instead, I felt something else. Determination. Without hesitation, I pulled out the chair across from Naomi and greeted her in fluent sign language. The reaction was immediate. The room fell completely silent. Forks stopped moving. Conversations ended mid-sentence. Several people stared with wide eyes. Serena's confident smile vanished so quickly it was almost unbelievable. For the first time that afternoon, she looked genuinely shocked. But the biggest surprise came from Naomi herself. Her face brightened instantly. The tension she had carried seemed to disappear. What began as a simple greeting quickly turned into a natural conversation. We spoke through signs while sunlight streamed through the windows beside us. As the minutes passed, the noise of the restaurant faded into the background. Naomi told me about her work as a teacher at a school for children with hearing impairments. She shared stories about students who had overcome enormous challenges. She described the joy of helping children discover confidence in themselves. There was warmth in every expression she made and strength behind every movement of her hands. I found myself completely drawn into her world. Meanwhile, the people who had expected entertainment were left speechless. Their laughter never arrived. Their joke had collapsed before it even began. The luncheon continued, but neither Naomi nor I paid much attention to anyone else. We talked for hours. We discovered shared interests, similar values, and surprisingly familiar life experiences. She had endured heartbreak of her own and understood what it meant to rebuild after loss. There was an honesty about her that felt refreshing. As the afternoon sunlight softened across the park outside, I realized something important. The only person who should have felt embarrassed that day was the person who arranged the prank. When the event finally ended, Serena approached our table. For once, she seemed unsure of herself. The confidence she usually carried had disappeared. The room remained unusually quiet as she stood there, perhaps realizing the damage her actions had caused. I didn't confront her. I didn't insult her. I didn't seek revenge. Instead, I thanked her. Not sarcastically. Genuinely. Because without her misguided attempt to humiliate me, I never would have met Naomi. The expression on Serena's face was something I'll never forget. She had expected anger. She had expected humiliation. She had expected a spectacle. What she received instead was grace. Over the following months, Naomi and I continued seeing each other. We spent sunny afternoons walking through parks, visiting museums, and sharing stories about our lives. She taught me new perspectives on resilience, and I helped support some of the community projects she organized for children. Together, we discovered that real connection isn't built on perfect circumstances. It's built on understanding. For the first time in years, I felt hopeful again. What began as a cruel setup became one of the greatest blessings of my life. If this story has touched your heart so far, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Heartline Stories. Your support helps bring more meaningful stories of kindness, courage, and hope to people around the world. Special request: comment below with the word respect if you believe every person deserves dignity, no matter their differences. A year later, Naomi and I stood together at a community event for families with deaf children. The same bright daylight filled the room, but this time the atmosphere was completely different. There was no judgment. No mockery. Only encouragement and acceptance. Watching the children laugh and communicate freely reminded me how often society underestimates people simply because they are different. Looking back, I realized that the most powerful moments in life often arrive disguised as setbacks. Sometimes the people who try to hurt us unknowingly lead us towards something beautiful. Sometimes humiliation transforms into opportunity. Sometimes a closed door reveals the path we were meant to take all along. The day my ex-wife tried to turn someone into a joke, she accidentally introduced me to one of the most extraordinary people I had ever known. And in doing so, she taught everyone in that room a lesson they would never forget: true character is revealed not by how we treat those who impress us, but by how we treat those the world too often overlooks. And that is how a prank meant to break my spirit ended up changing my life forever.